friends and family, and chismosos. Here to start off with part 3 of my story. Okay, so I took a look at part 2 and where I was at, and I saw that I kind of like jumped in a couple places. So I wanted to go back just to reiterate a couple things. When I was going to college for my pharmaceutical degree, I was also working at Presbyterian Hospital, as you know, from part 2, in the inpatient pharmacy. I was doing IV admixtures as well as in the narcotics cage. I loved doing that job. I loved it. This was around 2002 when this was happening. I always worn contacts all my life. Always had nearsightedness that I had to deal with growing up. However, a year of working at the hospital and in college to get my pharmaceutical degree, I ended up waking up one day and not seeing anything. I was seeing nothing but black and gray shadows. I was freaking out. I ended up going to the eye doctor to check and see what was going on. Come to find out, I was diagnosed with keratoconus. It's a coning of the corneas. What happens is your eyes are kind of like shaped like eggs, the bottom of the egg. Well, mine were protruding out like an orange cone, to the point to where I was seeing 20/30, wearing just soft contact lenses to seeing 2400. I needed a corneal transplant. So I went completely blind. I ended up having to retire early and getting disability because I was legally blind. I was still able to drive because they were able to give me a corneal transplant in my left eye first in 2002. I kept stitches in that eye for 2 years, and then they removed the stitches. Then they did my right eye. My right eye, the first time it didn't take, and I lost the cornea, so I ended up having to redo the surgery 2 years later. I think it was 2 years later. Get it redone after 30 days of having it done. I had to wait for another donor. I got it redone, and then I was able to see with these special lenses called ocular lenses. They're like a whole lens that goes over the whole eyeball. So I got that done, and with the lens I was able to see 20/40. Well, on the left eye, the lens wasn't working, so I was only using one contact lens in the right eye. I was still able to drive. I was still able to collect disability, retirement disability, because I had the work credits according to Social Security, because I worked all my life, basically from the age of 18. And so I went from making money every day, and I was the only breadwinner of the household. Well, mind you, if you remember, me and my husband used to do a lot of drugs. So we knew a lot of people that also did drugs. And I ended up learning the trade. So I ended up selling drugs, selling crack to the friends that I used to smoke with, and making good money. We did that. I knew that making money that way is not a good way. However, it was able to put money on the table to do all the stuff that we like to do, like going out to eat, buying clothes, buying jewelry. You know, I never paid bills with it. My Social Security ended up paying all the bills. But to do extra stuff, stuff that's meaningless, I did that. So I did that for a few years. Okay, so when my husband and I divorced, my ex-husband and I divorced the first time, like I said, we had our son Ethan. He left. He would always leave and come back, so it was nothing new. He was still doing drugs. I was still drinking and selling drugs. When I got pregnant with my son, I ended up stop selling because that kind of lifestyle is very dangerous. And I didn't want that around my kid. Okay. Well, when my husband had yelled in front of my son's face, I decided to make quits. Okay. He left. He did his own thing. I kept trying to have him have a relationship with his son. He was more concerned of wanting to get back with me. I didn't want nothing to do with him. I was tired of it. I dealt with that for 11 years, and I was done. I ended up meeting the guy that I was actually going to stand in the wedding with. I ended up meeting in person. My cousin introduced me to him. That was in Thanksgiving of 2007 or 2006. Yeah, I believe it's 2006. Well, in January of the following year, his mom ended up passing away. So everybody was like, well, why don't you have him live with you? He can help you with Ethan. He can help you with bills. He used to be a body piercer, owned his own company called Vintage Steel. And I was like, okay, sounds good. So I had a 3-bedroom apartment, so I moved him in. I let him stay upstairs in the main bedroom because my son's room was downstairs and I had a room across the hall from him. I had to move in to my place. I was still seeing my husband, taking him to see my son. We would meet up at one of my a family member's house, and I would stay the night with Ethan there and let him see our son. Well, 3 months after Chris moves in with me, that was his name, we didn't have a relationship. It was just a friend with benefits type thing. I was still seeing other people. I just got a divorce. I wasn't interested in getting a relationship, although our relationship was very sexual. And my son liked him. I always looked to verify that he was not being hurt. In front of me, he didn't do anything. And then my son was learning how to walk, whatever. Well, he would always fall. And I started selling drugs again. So I would leave him with Chris to babysit. And on April 21st of 2007, he ends up killing my son. My son Ethan was only 14 months old. And I was not there. I was out collecting money from the drugs that I sold and out to sell a C note to somebody else. Stay tuned to part 4 of my story.